Breathe with me, please. Not that I'm the boss of you, but breathe with me. Take it in. Yes. And again. Let go. And one more time. As always, thank you for breathing with me. So earlier this week, if you're on Facebook, you may have seen my post. I posted that I was looking for inspiration and talk titles. And what I did was I wanted to ask people what kinds of things they wanted to have a spiritual conversation about. Because it's one thing for me to decide what you all need to learn, but it's a whole other thing for you to tell me what's relevant in your lives right now. And boy, did I get some great ideas. I'm going to be rolling these out for the next weeks and months to come. But there was another upside to my asking this question, which I actually hadn't realized when I did it, is that I realized that I got validated that the things that I am speaking about every week are actually pretty relevant to people. Because as I was looking at people's ideas, I was like, oh, well, I just talked about that last week. Or, oh, gee, I remember when I had that discussion a couple of weeks ago. So it's nice to know that I actually know what I'm doing and that I'm doing something right here. So today's topic, you're not the boss of me, is relevant, and it ties in with today's topic, I absolutely promise, but not immediately. So I just need you to keep that in mind, okay? Because today's topic it was not the most popular one that got suggested, because there was definitely a theme of what people want to be learning about. But this one, it wasn't the most popular, it wasn't the most easy to research, but it was really interesting to me. And if it's interesting to me, then I do my best to make it interesting and relevant to you. That's kind of what I'm supposed to be doing. So what I'm hoping is that once you get over the shock of it, and it's going to be shocking to some of you, are you interested now? It's going to be shocking, but I also think that eventually it's going to be relevant to you. Okay, so you guys, you ready for that? I'm not going to tell you yet, because first, before we do that, we need to talk a little bit about this thing called universal laws. I'm such a fan of the law. I've always described myself as a law girl. Because in this teaching, when we talk about laws, we are not talking about man-made laws like speed limits, or other social laws that go along. In this teaching, we're talking about universal laws, because the problem with man-made laws is that they change sometimes. Like something can be illegal, and then come like July, it's not illegal anymore. So the laws that I'm talking about are those consistent, unchangeable, indisputable laws of the universe, whether they're physical laws or spiritual laws. So some of the physical laws that I'm talking about are electricity, the law of electricity, the law of gravity, the law of mathematics. Mathematics is a law. Here's the deal, folks. Everybody who adds 2 and 2 together are going to get 4. Everybody, all the time, without exception. Mathematics is a law. There's also a law about reaping and sowing, or gardening. I call it the law of harvest. And with any a universal law, whether it's a physical or a spiritual law, they are impartial and they are impersonal. In other words, they cannot play favorites. They work alike for everyone. And aren't we glad that that's true? Aren't we glad that gravity works alike for everybody? Yeah? Otherwise, people would be like floating all around and stuff. Aren't we glad that electricity works the same for everybody? Electricity doesn't bargain. It doesn't choose who it's going to serve and who it won't. And the same thing is true for the law of gardening, law of harvest. That law dictates that you take a seed and you plant it into the soil, and you give it the correct amount of water and air and sun and time. And the result is a plant that corresponds exactly to the seed that was planted. You with me so far? The seeds in the soil don't conspire to work for some people and not for others. They don't choose what it is that they're going to produce. In other words, if somebody plants turnips, the soil doesn't say, nah, you don't want turnips today, I'm going to give you potatoes instead. The law is, if you plant turnips, you're going to get turnips. If you plant potatoes, you're going to get potatoes. It is an exacting, impartial, and completely reliable law all of the time. Even for those of us who don't have green thumbs. So I wanted to share a story with you. I've heard that, oh, there was my check too, sorry. This is a true story. I actually heard this on the internet, so it's a true story. Little man is getting ready to plant his garden, and usually his son helps him plant the garden, but his son, by the name of Vinny, is actually in prison for some things that are not so nice. So the old man writes a letter to his son. He says, Vinny, he says, I'm feeling pretty badly today, or this week, because it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to plant my tomatoes for my special sauce. I'm getting too old to dig up the soil and everything, and I know that if you were here, you would help me, but I understand that you're not here, and so, I just want to let you know that I'm kind of bummed that you're not going to be able to dig the plot out for me. Love, Dad. And he gets a letter a little while later from his son that says, Dear Dad, don't dig up the garden. That's where the bodies are. Love, Vinny. 4 o'clock in the morning, the next day, the FBI shows up and the local police, and they dig up the entire garden area without finding any bodies. And they apologize to the old man and they leave. Next day, the old man gets a letter from Vinny. Dear Dad, go ahead and plant the tomatoes. That's the best I could do under the circumstances. So that's kind of the deal with physical laws, okay? But what we also know is that there are universal laws that actually work in exactly the same way. The one that most of us know the most about, especially if you've been around here for a while, is the law of cause and effect. Basically, the law of cause and effect says for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. More today, ways of putting it is the law of what goes around comes around, might be the law of what you think about comes about, or the law of you reap what you sow. We really are on a gardening kick today, aren't we? Yeah, I know. But a more modern version of the law of cause and effect that has brought many people into this teaching, of course, is the law of attraction. That we attract to us what it is that we vibrate to and what it is that we think about. Made popular by the movie The Secret, Bob Proctor talks about it, Abraham Hicks talks about it, so it's what brings a lot of people here. But the fact of the matter is, the law of attraction is the same law as the law of cause and effect, with just a slight little tweak, just a slightly different facet or aspect of it. Some of the other spiritual laws that we hear about, for instance, are the law of reciprocity, that give and take, reciprocal action. The law of circulation, what goes out comes back in. It's what we talk about when we talk about prosperity. The law of compensation, I am giving and you are giving, and we are compensating back and forth like this. Again, all the same law, but a slightly different facet of it. So now we come to the law that I said that you probably don't like. See, I have to turn up my fan a little bit. But I believe that by the time we're done talking about this particular law, not only will you understand it, you actually might like it. Is fair? Is that fair? Are you nervous? I'm a little nervous. I am a little nervous. But the reason why I say that I don't think that some of you are going to like it is because if you are attracted to a teaching like ours, then this law is going to feel like it's exactly the opposite of the kind of people that we are. Because the kind of people that come to a center like this, that we're free thinking, right? We're inclusive, we're open, we're transcendentalists, we are questioners of authority. Our motto is, you're not the boss of me. So when I tell you that the law that we're going to talk about today is the law of obedience. Nobody's left. Tom's getting ready to leave. I can see that right there. But to people like us, oh my God, this is like the worst word ever. What do you mean obedience? Well, you're not the boss of me. Freedom, independence. That's who I am. And yet when we understand the true meaning of this law, rather than it limiting us, it's going to actually open doors that we never even imagined. Because like with every other law that I'm talking about today, whether it's electricity or farming or attraction or law of cause and effect, there are certain parameters or rules that need to be followed. And that's another, you're not the boss of me phrase. I mean, you think about it, rules have to be followed. Who said? Right? Who said? The law said. For instance, anybody here in construction? Any electricians in the room? I know Monica's here. She's an electrician, yeah. So electricity has certain do's and don'ts, right? There's certain rules and laws that go along with it. And you can rail against those do's and don'ts. You can say, no, no way. But the bottom line is, if you do not follow the rules, the best case scenario is the thing that you're working on isn't going to work. The worst case scenario is you're going to get burned, electrocuted, or you're going to burn your house down. Right? You with me so far? So these laws, whether they are physical or spiritual, have rules, and they have consequences to ignoring those rules. However, and here's the key, if you work within electricity's rules or parameters, in other words, you obey them, you can get it to do almost anything for you. I'm going to say that again because it's really key. If you obey the parameters, if you obey the rules, you can get electricity to do anything for you. When you obey the laws, the law obeys you. Are you with me?
Yes.
Is this making sense?
Yes.
Okay. So let's, I'm a wordsmith, right? So let's take a look at the word obey. Oh, submit. Oh, follow. Conform. Comply. Still give you the heebie-jeebies, don't they? Yeah. Well, to better understand, let's look at another law. We've been talking about it all day today, the law of reaping and sowing, or the law of harvest. Seems pertinent today that Dennis and John were talking about the farm today. It was just a happy coincidence that this happened. But the reason that we anticipate that this thing to be successful is because Dennis and his crew understand the law of harvest. They understand how to work within the laws, the rules of planting and reaping. In other words, they know how to comply with them. So let me give you some for instances. They didn't attempt to plant this farm in the winter, even if we hadn't had 47 feet of snow. They knew that it wasn't going to work with nature's rhythm. They knew that already. They knew to make sure that the irrigation was enough and it was functional, because they know that one of the rules or the laws of the law of harvest is the plants need enough water. They also understand the growing season. You remember when Dennis said, here's some of the things that we're going to grow here. They knew what is going to grow here in Alberta versus, say, Southern California. I mean, they're not trying to grow avocados here. They're going to grow kale. And zucchini and cabbage and that kind of stuff. They understand the importance of compost. So gross as it is, because compost is gross, I'm sorry. Yes, compost is gross. I'm sorry. They have secured, if you see that pile of stuff back there, that was free compost that we got from the city last fall. Free compost for this growing season, because they understand how important it is for the nutrition. So do you see where I'm going with this? They aren't thinking, well, nature, you're not the boss of me. I'm going to plant whatever and whenever I want. They understood that they must obey the laws of nature, and by doing so, reap the benefits. Raymond Hollowell, who wrote a book called Working with the Law, it's like the seminal book about spiritual laws. He said, when a man wishes to use nature in his work, such as farming or gardening, he must know how to comply with nature's law. In turn, as he obeys her laws, he derives the best results, and in the end, he will enjoy the greatest harvest. Now, believe it or not, I actually didn't prepare this talk just to do a commercial for the farm. I really didn't. We were going to do it a couple of weeks ago, and it wasn't going to work out, so we postponed it to today, and it just happened to fit in with this idea of the law of obedience. So here's the good news. You waiting for some good news? Here's the good news. Is that now that we kind of understand what this means, we have the opportunity to be obedient to the laws that govern our lives, and in doing so, reap the benefits of it. As I said earlier, the main one, the biggie, cause and effect, law of cause and effect. For every effect, oh, help me out here, I just said it. Yeah, for every cause there's an effect. So how it works in our lives here as human beings is through our thoughts, through our beliefs, and through our actions. And its rule is that it produces without bias and without judgment what we think about. In other words, our thought is the cause, the effect is what happens in our lives. Our thought is the seed, and the effect is the plant. Are you with me? With me so far? So simply put, if we think, if we believe, and if we act in a manner that is in alignment with the good that we say that we want, and you wouldn't be here if you didn't want good stuff in your life. So if we do all that, and we act and we live and we think and we believe in the manner of the good that we say that we want in our life, the law works with us, the law works for us to produce that. However, if our thoughts and our beliefs and our actions are jumbled, are haphazard, then the law responds in kind, and we have jumbled and haphazard results. Anybody? Yeah? Or, if our thoughts and our beliefs and our actions are negative, or hateful, or unhealthy, the law, which is impartial, brings us experiences that are negative and unhealthy and hate-filled. Cause, effect. And here's the further catch. ignorance of this law is no excuse. Just because you don't know that the law is working in your life doesn't spare you from its consequences. The law always works all the time for everybody, whether you know it or not. However, our founder, Ernest Holmes, said trained thought is more powerful than untrained thought. So as we are going about the process of learning how our thoughts work, learning how the law works, we have the opportunity to choose to use it constructively in the way that it was intended, to support growth and expansion and the enhancement of life. We have that choice. And then, as Hallowell says, once the law is understood, we hold the secret of eternal happiness, peace, and mastery over all the forces around us. Woo-hoo! Yes? We hold the secret of eternal happiness, peace, and mastery over all the forces around us. When we understand the law, we comply with it. Dare I say, we obey it. Because when we understand this law and we choose it, choose to consciously work with it, we find ourselves in the flow. You guys ever been in the flow? You know what I'm talking about? Just everything just feels like it's effortless. Challenges just disappear. Problems just go away. Obstacles are just not there. In other words, when we understand and obey the law and its rules, we find that this amazing, intelligent, plentiful force is actually obeying us. So now that we understand it, maybe obedience isn't such a bad thing after all, hey? I love you. And so it is.